So nerdmelon.com just posted their top 100 auction sales of 2022 in video games, comic books, Pokemon cards, and Funko Pop figures. You can find links to those in the description below. So today we're going to do a recap of 2022 as well as highlight some of the exceptional sales we saw in the last year. Sign up for an account today to get access to these lists. The account is completely free, and you also get access to data from over 3 million completed auctions from 10 of the biggest online auction houses. There are some incredible collectibles on these top 100 lists. 3 of the 4 categories had record high sales in 2022, and if you're a collector, this is the only place you'll find a list sourced from so many different websites. Not even the mighty Go Collect, which is a pay site, I might add, has access to this much data. So we'll start by looking at comic book auctions. In 2022, Nerdmelon uploaded 788,000 comic book auctions. These auctions exclude auctions for multiple items, so these are only single comic auctions. And of course, for eBay only, we only collect auctions for comics valued at $50 or more. There's just way too many $0 to $49 comic books being sold that don't really have a big impact on the numbers that we're dealing with here. Especially when you consider the total value of those 788,000 auctions was $333 million. Now, if we're looking at raw versus graded, about 306,000 were raw auctions, meaning that 481,000, or about 58% of all comic book auctions in 2022 were for graded comics. That's amazing to me. Well over 50% of all auctions are now graded. If we want to look a little bit more at the grading situation, 456,000 were graded by CGC, so that's like all of them. CBCS had just 22,000 graded auctions, and then there was about 2,600 and change of the other comic book grading companies like PGX, Halo, or EGS. We had a record-breaking comic sale in 2022. This copy of Superman #1 sold for a cool $5,300,000. This was a private sale. This sale represents the highest selling collectible in 2022, as well as the highest comic book sale of all time. And next we'll talk about video games. In 2022, Nerdmelon uploaded about 580,000 video game auctions, worth about $114 million. Of that, a very small amount, 26,000, or about 5% of all sales were for graded video games. Big difference between comics and video games when it comes to graded sales. The vast majority of graded sales was from WATA. They had about 20,500 and some change, followed by VGA with about 5,600 auctions for VGA graded sales, followed by a very small, insignificant amount for all the other video grading companies out there, video game grading companies out there. I will note, however, we did have 27 sales for CGC graded video games. Now, CGC just started grading video games late in 2022. We're starting to see a few of those come up on auctions now. I suspect this number will increase significantly in 2023. The highest sale for a video game in 2022 was this copy of Mario for NES. It was graded by WATA at 9.6 with an A seal rating and sold for $720,000. This was surprisingly not a record-breaking sale, the record being held by the now infamous and slightly suspect sale of Mario 64 for $1,560,000 back in 2021. And for Pokemon cards in 2022, Nerdmelon uploaded about 134,000 Pokemon card auctions worth about $34 million. When it comes to graded versus raw, it's split pretty much 50-50, with the vast majority of the graded Pokemon cards going to PSA. They had about 77% of the market share for graded Pokemon cards, followed by CGC, which had about 15% of the market share, then followed by BGS, which had 4%. Now, if we do the math, that leaves another 4%. Last remaining 4% goes to all the other Pokemon card grading companies out there, and there are a lot of them. If you want a good laugh, I'll provide a link in the description below to our ever-growing list of third-party grading companies for Pokemon cards. There's just a lot, and they're really funny to look at. Some of them are just some guy in their basement. Some of them are trying to be legit competitors to PSA. You be the judge. Go take a look. It's always an interesting read. We saw another record-breaking sale in the Pokemon category. This PSA-graded Pikachu Illustrator sold for $900,000 in 2022, representing the highest sale of a Pokemon card on record. And finally, the fourth category is Funko Pops. In 2022, we uploaded about 175,000 completed auctions for Funko Pop figures, worth about $22 million. Now, there's really no point in talking about graded versus raw when it comes to Funko Pop figures, because almost all of the Funko Pops sold in 2022 were raw. There's really only one company that grades Funko Pops, that's VVGS. So they actually look at box condition, the condition of the figure, and apply a grade. You will find slabbed Funko Pop figures for other grading companies like PSA, for example, but they are grading a signature on the Funko Pop. They're not grading the Funko Pop itself. Funko Pops also had a record-breaking high sale in 2022. This Batman Freddy Funko sold for just under $30,000, making it the highest sale for a Funko Pop on record. There are a lot of stories for higher selling Pops, but those are from private sales, which are notoriously difficult to track down an accurate number for. And that concludes our 2022 year in review. Now, anybody who watched our content in 2022, I want to give a sincere thank you to. We don't have a lot of subscribers on this channel, so your time is greatly appreciated. I want to wish you all the best in 2023, and I hope that the collecting gods provide you all with a special holy grail at some point this year.